And I think it's important to talk about that babies nurse for other reasons other than just they're hungry. So mamas are really warm and comfortable to babies. So if babies are sleepy or if they're fussy or if they don't feel good for whatever reason, they may nurse just for comfort. They may nurse to sleep, and that's perfectly normal.
Thank you for joining me today. My name's Krista. I'm from Mommy Knows Best, and I'm here again with Brenna Lansden, who is a registered nurse and breastfeeding counselor. And today she's going to talk all about common breastfeeding worries and just hopefully nip some worries that you might have in the butt. Thank you again for being here, Brenna.
Hey, Krista, thanks for having me. I'm happy to be back. Like Krista said, my name is Brenna Lansden. I'm a registered nurse and a certified breastfeeding counselor, and I'm currently breastfeeding my 9-month-old daughter. So I want to talk to you guys today about some common breastfeeding worries that a lot of moms talk to me about, and hopefully we can shed some light on what's true and what's not true.
You kind of talk about many different common breastfeeding worries people have. So let's just kind of go through them one by one, and you can expand a little bit more and then address them to kind of help people with their worries. So the first one is, my baby is always nursing, so she must be hungry.
So your baby is going to nurse often, and that's okay. That's what babies are supposed to do. I think we get into this routine that babies need to feed every, 4 hours. With breastfeeding babies, you actually just feed them on demand. There's really no set schedule. And I think it's important to talk about that babies nurse for other reasons other than just they're hungry. So mamas are really warm and comfortable to babies. So if babies are sleepy or if they're fussy or if they don't feel good for whatever reason, they may nurse just for comfort. They may nurse to sleep, and that's perfectly normal. It doesn't mean that you have a low milk supply. It doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with your milk. That is all just normal breastfeeding baby. That's just how breastfeeding babies eat, is they just want to nurse a lot. It's also important to talk about too that breast milk is more easily digestible than formula. So it's actually the perfect type of food for your baby. So your body digests it easier, which means that they may eat a little bit more often than what a formula-fed baby does.
Breastfeeding concern number 2. I can only pump a small amount.
So I think that it's really important to remember that the amount of milk that you pump is not an indicator of the milk that is in your breast, nor is it the amount that baby is actually able to get out. Your baby is going to be able to express more milk than a pump could ever do. Some women, especially if you have issues with thyroid, they don't react very well to pumps. For whatever reason, your body may know that it's not baby, and it's a substitute for baby. So your body isn't going to react to it as it would to your actual baby. Babies are experts on nursing and getting that milk out. So it's a common worry that a lot of moms have, because when they pump, they see that milk come out, that tangible evidence, and that is not an indicator of your milk supply whatsoever. And if you think about it, if you're pumping after you feed your baby, it's basically just leftovers from what baby has already nursed. So it's just a little extra supply of milk that you can start to build up. But I think that is really important to just remember that it is basically leftovers if you're pumping after baby has nursed. And it's not an indicator that you have a poor milk supply by any means.
All right. Common breastfeeding worry number 3. My baby cries a lot.
So babies cry for all sorts of different reasons, and they're unable to talk to us and tell them why they're upset. I think the easiest thing for us to say, oh, a baby must be crying because they're hungry. Well, they could have a wet diaper. They could be cold. we have to remember that when babies are inside the tummy, it's very warm, it's very dark, it's very quiet. And then whenever they come out into our world, it's very bright, it's cold, it's loud. And so sometimes just being on the outside of the womb can be very uncomfortable for baby. And it takes them a little bit of time to get used to life on the outside. So especially the first few weeks, babies are going to cry, and it's just kind of guessing and figuring out what's normal for your baby, but it does not mean that they are hungry all the time. I mean, think about it. We get upset as adults, and it doesn't always mean that we're hungry. So I think you have to think about that too, that there are a lot of other reasons why babies are going to cry rather than they're hungry all the time.
Absolutely. Concern number 4 is my breasts are soft.
So in the beginning, it's not uncommon your breasts are going to feel kind of hard whenever the milk comes in. But usually by around 6 weeks postpartum, it's not uncommon for your breasts to start to feel soft and floppy. Some women, they do have soft breasts all throughout their postpartum breastfeeding journey. That is normal. It's also normal to have your breasts feel hard all throughout your breastfeeding journey. So just because your breasts, start to feel floppy and soft, that does not mean that you do not have milk in there whatsoever.
Okay, concern number 5 is my baby gulped down milk from a bottle.
So first and foremost, gulping is usually a sign that the milk is coming out too fast. So if a baby is gulping at a bottle, then there are other issues that we would need to address. But babies are born with a very strong suck reflex. So if anything touches the palate inside of their mouth, they're going to suck. I like to think of it as an adult. Somebody may give me a piece of candy, piece of chocolate. I'm going to eat that. That doesn't necessarily mean that I need it. So babies, if you put a bottle inside of their mouth, they're going to suck on it, which means they're also going to swallow because they have they have milk in their mouth from the bottle. So that does not mean that they're hungry. It's just an automatic response, a reflex that babies are born with. So if you put anything in their mouth, they're going to suck on it and then they're going to swallow because that's just part of their normal anatomy. So that does not mean if you give a baby a bottle after you've nursed them that they're hungry by any means. And it does not mean that you have a low milk supply or that baby isn't getting enough. There are other ways to address those common worries as well. How do you know that baby is getting enough is by the amount of diapers that you're changing, that they are gaining weight, and every baby gains weight a little bit differently too. And then also too that they're meeting all of their milestones, developmental milestones. And they seem satisfied after they've nursed. Now, there are some babies who they just like to nurse. And so you will put them to breast and they will nurse. I think it's important to remember that each baby is unique and specific. And as a mom, you will learn throughout your journey with your baby what is normal for them and what is not normal for them.
Okay, so another concern people have is my baby sucks on her hands all the time.
Babies suck just for comfort. It's one of the things that they do in the womb. It's one of the things that they actually can grab in the womb. That's how they know how to soothe themselves. So just because babies are chewing on their hands, yes, it can be a sign of a hunger cue. If they are gnawing on their hands after a good nursing session, that does not indicate that they are hungry. That's just a way for them to comfort themselves. And it's a good sign because developmentally they will start to put their hand to their mouth as the older that they get, but it does not mean that they are hungry.
Here's one I see this one a lot in our private Facebook group. A lot of moms have these concerns. So my baby doesn't sleep through the night and wants to nurse.
Sleeping through the night is actually a neurological development. It's not a nutritional development. So once the baby is neurologically mature enough to sleep through the night, they will. It does not mean if a baby is sleeping through the night that there is anything wrong with your milk, that there is anything wrong with you as a mother. It's just whenever they are ready, they will sleep through the night. I think that we focus a lot on well, babies need to sleep through the night by a certain age. And that's not necessarily the case because each baby is unique and specific. And so, like I said earlier, babies will nurse for all kinds of different reasons. So, if your baby is teething, they may wake up more often just because they don't feel good. And so, they're going to want to nurse. And that's completely normal. Babies nurse for other reasons other than that they're hungry. I know sometimes it can be frustrating for mom because she wants to sleep, but it's important to remember that your baby will eventually sleep through the night. This time is precious with them that you have while they're small. Just try it. Just know that it will get better and they will eventually sleep through the night once they are ready.
Awesome. That's so interesting because I hear that all the time too, where people are like,
Yeah.
oh, like my baby's not sleeping through the night. Yeah, what am I doing wrong? And they're so quick to blame themselves.
And it's not their fault by any means. And I think that we do put a lot of pressure on moms to think that their baby should sleep through the night by a certain age. And that's not the case whatsoever. When a baby is ready, they will sleep through the night. So you can't force it. You can't rush it. Breastfed babies, just by nature, they don't sleep long periods of time. And that's actually a built-in defense against sudden infant death syndrome. So breastfed babies tend to wake up more often throughout the night because breast milk is more easily digestible. And so breastfed infants actually have a lower risk of sudden infant death syndrome.
Wow, very interesting. I had no idea about that. Okay, so for the last concern is I don't leak milk.
So leaking and not leaking is completely normal. Some women leak, some women don't leak milk. It does not have any indicator of your milk supply if you leak or if you don't leak. Leaking actually has more to do with muscles in your breast around the nipple area. So sometimes when those muscles are weaker, then you may leak a little bit more. You may leak in the beginning because you have a lot of milk and it's not regulated properly in the very beginning. So you may leak then, and then it kind of tapers off and you may never leak. Some women never leak and some women always leak throughout breastfeeding. Either is normal, and it does not mean that you have a high milk supply or a low milk supply. It's just a very normal component of breastfeeding.
I hear a lot of those concerns in our Facebook group all the time, so I think that'll be really great. And if you guys watching can think of any other concerns while watching, feel free to comment below or email us directly, and we can get another video put together for you guys and answer some of your questions. So I know we also want to talk about, so there's a lot of different foods that can affect your breast milk, whether it's increasing it or decreasing it. So let's talk today about some foods in particular that breastfeeding moms should avoid because it has been shown to decrease breast milk.
The top 3 foods that I know of that can actually decrease supply are herbs. Peppermint, sage, and parsley actually can reduce milk supply. It's important to remember that you would have to ingest a large amount of these 3 things. But some women may drink a peppermint tea and see a decrease in their milk. Caffeine and breastfeeding are compatible. It does need to be a moderate amount. About 1 to 3% of caffeine does pass through the breast milk to baby. So babies really aren't exposed to a ton of caffeine through breast milk. With everything, moderation is key. And it's important just to watch and see how baby reacts. Every baby is different. And so if you notice that you've drank some caffeine and your baby is acting a little bit jittery or, a little bit more fussy, then that may mean you need to just reduce your caffeine intake. Another common food or drink is alcohol and breastfeeding. Alcohol is the highest in breast milk about 20 to 40 minutes after you've started to drink it, and it can show up in breast milk 2 to 3 hours after. So there's a couple different suggestions that we recommend. Some will tell you that it's okay to actually, while you're nursing, that you can drink 1 drink. And 1 drink is 1 beer or 1 small glass of wine. It's very specific to each person. You cannot drink a large amount of alcohol with breastfeeding, but 1 small drink a day is fine with breastfeeding. But just pay attention to your baby. And if you notice that baby is sleepy, acting differently, then you may want to reduce your alcohol consumption too. Everything is in moderation.
I think you've made such a good point where moderation is key. And every baby is so unique. Yeah, one mom could have a thing of peppermint tea and not notice anything. Another mom might have a sip and, it's just like, it's so different how every mom is.
The reality is moms really don't need to change their diets for breastfeeding. They can enjoy spicy foods. They can enjoy foods that may give you gas, but that's not going to give baby gas. There's really not a significant change in diet that needs to happen. One thing too, with fish is high mercury fish. So swordfish, shark, mackerel, those are things to try to avoid if you can. Salmon, tuna, those are all really good things to eat. Just try to keep it in moderation. Moderation is key when it comes to breastfeeding and mom's diet.
If someone watching wants to learn more about, especially what you do, where can they find you?
So you can find me at Mountain Mama Lactation on Instagram. I offer tips and advice and support for breastfeeding and breast pumping mamas.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here again, and look forward to having you on again because you have so much knowledge in this space. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. You can follow Mommy Knows Best on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. So be sure to follow us there. And we also have a private Facebook page called Mommy Knows Best, Judgment Free Tribe. So definitely have to check that out.